We play an ugly game. You have the determination to win it. History does not remember blood. It remembers names.
Matt, I'm putting you on the spot. In 10 seconds, how many dragons from this series can you name?
Caraxes, Syrax, Tyraxes, Valerian, but he's dead. Vagar.
That's more than me. I've forgotten
That was
them all.
really good.
I can't even name me children, so
I had bets out there. They said 3, and you got 6.
that's good.
It's not bad, is it?
I might have added 1 on. So I'm going to ask
Thank you.
another really fluffy question to get things started.
Great, love it.
The two of you could have a hair off. You both have great hair in this. Now, I notice you have more of a blunt cut. You have more of a bob. It's more neat.
Yeah.
Yours is wilder. You have a man pony happening. I'm wondering if this reflects your characters in any way, and who do you think has the better wig?
I've got a beautiful, gorgeous wig. My wig was made
His
from
is
the
more
same.
expensive.
I had the most expensive wig on the show.
Yeah, it's
Right.
because he's the king.
Facts?
But I've got
Really?
more styles, haven't I?
I think, well, I've
Well,
got some beautiful styles, man. Let's
Yours
not
is-
go into that.
It's just react. It's because anyway, I don't want to give it away.
I don't know who just won.
Me.
No way. I've got the old...
I was the only one with the same hair palette as Daenerys.
Oh,
It was taken from her colours.
really?
And it's all about how it matches your skin tone. It's quite a considered thing. All joking aside, your hair, because some sort of like tones of it, they look green against your skin and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
it's not just like they lob a big
Who do you think
blonde
you're
wig
talking
on
to?
your
You're
head.
talking to an LA girl that highlights her hair every month.
I was
We
going
could
to
talk
say
about
that's
this
not a
for
wig, is it?
days.
That's real hair, isn't it?
I wanted to ask you about riding the mechanical bull, so to speak,
Oh yeah.
which is riding a dragon.
Yeah.
If we were to have like a hidden camera on you
Yeah.
and show the behind the scenes of what that actually looked like, can you break it down for us? I heard there's like leaf blowers, like blowing wind.
Yeah, I mean, not leaf blowers. They've
Hoovers.
got great, they've got some memories going at you. They've got great big wind machines like this, rain, the lot, and you're up on a plinth, which is about 20 foot in the air. Then they strap you in, and then you can't get down. You're just up there all day, and then they sort of move you around on like a remote control mechanical bull.
Did your skills get better over the season?
Well, no, not really. I was born to do it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
It's
that.
easy.
Cockiness.
Yeah.
Who really deserves the throne? Beginning of season 1. Who do we really think deserves the throne?
Me.
Him.
Well, the heir. I'm sorry. The heir to the
Me.
throne. Why?
That was a real Beetlejuice moment.
Me, I do deserve it by rights.
No, he has a
I
right.
am
He
the
has a
heir.
right to
Yeah,
it.
and you nick it off me.
Yeah.
You did. You
but
stole
there's
it. You
no
took it.
way. There's no way in the 7 hells that I'm going to name him heir. He's
Yeah,
too
but-
irresponsible.
What, you don't know how I'd react to that.
Oh,
responsibility. Do you know what I mean?
Every job he's had, he's ballsed up. He's made an absolute mess of. There's no way.
The question is, has he done it on purpose or has he just ballsed it up?
No, I didn't do it to hurt you or anything like that. I think that my duty as king. I even say I actually don't think that Damon wants to be king.
No, I don't.
You know, the councils say, they
want it.
think that he's got designs on it, and I'm like, he doesn't want to be king. He wouldn't. He could not sit in that
he wouldn't
council
turn up.
room without.
He wouldn't. He wouldn't turn
He'd
up.
never
would he?
be there.
He's afraid of commitment.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
something
isn't
like
it?
that. I think so.
Wow.
He'd be out on the merry.
George has sort of said there's nobody really good or evil.
No,
Like Game of Thrones, there's good and evil. But who do you think is the most evil and the most good in season 1? Who do you truly think? And a lot of people have been naming you as
As
the most good.
Well, I am, yeah.
and who have they been naming as the most evil? Otto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go with Otto.
Do you agree?
Yeah, because he's the most Machiavellian. He's the most serpentine.
He is, yeah.
He's the puppet master,
Yeah.
which is why Damon. And he says, "Look, I see him for what he is. He's a puppet master. He's got you like this."
Yeah.
George said real quick that the biggest conflict in this show is not between people, but within somebody's own heart. What do you think each of your characters' biggest conflict in their heart is? I'm ending things on a very deep note.
Deep one, yeah.
My biggest conflict, I should never have been named king.
God, it's a tough one.
because really, in my heart, I wasn't built to do it.
I don't know, really, it's a tough one. His biggest conflict is himself, to be honest, and his brother. Something to do with his brother, probably.
God.
I don't know what.
It's because he should never have been king.
His brother. Well, exactly. Exactly. It's probably true.
He said it himself.
I've inherited your conflict.
Yeah.
Bastard.
If Rhaenyra comes into power, she can cut off any challenge to her succession.
I am to inherit the Iron Throne. She will block my way.
So first of all, I heard that when you two met for the first time, that you instantly were like in love. Like, was that sort of, you're nodding your head, Olivia, like yes. Sort of, how was that first meeting between the two of you?
Lovely.
And a relief as well.
Such a relief.
Yeah. We're just like, oh, we've
Home.
we've got this.
Yeah.
We've got each other.
Yeah. I mean, we're f***ing lucky, actually, because it's that rare thing where
yeah.
you meet someone and there's like an immediate understanding and familiarity, and that's quite unusual, and
Yeah, it is.
deeply grateful for it.
And a lot of the time on these jobs, you're thrown together, and you're expected to have this intense chemistry, and that's something that as actors all the time we have to work on.
Yeah.
And so it's such a treat when it's just like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah.
Know
yeah.
you.
Oh, good.
Love
good.
you.
All right, chill. Yeah.
However, do you think Ryan was nervous when he saw how well you got on? Because later on, they're sort of divided.
I hope he was nervous.
Yeah.
No, well, but I mean, crucially, this story is like that connection and that chemistry is sort of fundamental to anything that happens later, and ultimately, you have two people who desperately want that reunification, won't ask for it, but so that
love,
we like each other, it's really handy. Actually.
Yeah, that love has to be cemented already
Right.
to then hate each other.
And that's where the pain is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without the love, the pain doesn't work.
Right.
So.
Emma, for you, I want you to juxtapose for me, because I heard about your audition that your phone was propped up on a chip bag and that you sort of had to makeshift some hair extensions. Yeah. So juxtapose that from the first time you stepped on the set, full wig, full like 2,000 crew and cast.
Yeah.
How big a difference were those two worlds?
I mean, like, I don't even really have language to describe that. Added to which, we come into this on the back of a pandemic where I haven't seen anyone in 2 years. I mean, like different worlds, and certainly initially I felt like I'd won a competition, and that someone had, but like it's very weird to be plucked out your living room, right?
Yeah,
because it's also
true.
like so little during a pandemic
We
could be
hadn't
in
seen anyone.
person.
Yeah.
So again, there's something very surreal about going from like doing tapes in your bedroom to arriving on set with 2,000 people, whatever it is, 600 people. And then, of course, in like no time, it becomes wonderfully familiar, and that's
And very
that's the
normal.
joy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boring.
Yeah.
I'm bored.
Bored now.
Untrue.
So I know that you hadn't watched Game of Thrones before you were cast. So then how did you infuse it? Did you binge, like when you got the role, did you just like go hard? And what were
Yeah.
your thoughts?
So, I'm so glad I hadn't watched Game of Thrones before I auditioned, because I think if I had the feelings towards Game of Thrones that I have now, I wouldn't have gotten the role, because I love it so much and I think it's so incredible. And our director, showrunner, Miguel Sapochnik, who directed episodes like Hard Home and Battle of the Bastards, and he's just incredible. He's the one that has like shaped this, the House of the Dragon. So it that was one of our biggest that was one of our biggest turn-ons. That was one of the things that was
I was turned on.
I was turned on. Yeah. We were all turned on. That was one of the things that made us want to do the job, from the get-go. What was the question? I'm so sorry.
No, you answered it.
Did I? Oh, good.
But
Yeah.
I get turned on watching the show, and I don't know if that's good or bad. But
I mean, it's a sexy
happens.
show. It's a sexy show.
It's a sexy
It's
show.
just a reality.
Yeah, it's a sexy show.
It's visceral. It's in your face. So yeah.
Yeah, but no, loved it. And me and my mum binged it together, and she's on my same like Now TV account, which is what Thrones is on in the UK. And she would be like 4 or 5 ahead of me, and so I'd just click on it and be like, "What's going on?" And then something would happen. I'd be like, "No!" And I'd be like,
I'm wondering for the two of you, because your characters have very different relationships with their father. And I think maybe it changes, it's sort of part of maybe the reason why they end up conflicted with each other. Can you talk about how you think those relationships differ?
Yeah, I mean, so for Rhaenyra, like, she adores her dad. And he adores her, and simultaneously they share a stubbornness that means they just can't communicate. I think there is like a really genuine love there, and I don't think you talk often about Otto making a pawn of Alicent. I think that's true with Viserys.
No.
And yet somehow he completely isolates her by not being able to communicate, and she wants his sort of adoration more than anyone and can't ask for it, so they're at an impasse, whereas you do talk.
Yeah, I feel like for me, like you've been granted maybe too much freedom, where you'd love some boundaries set, and whereas my relationship with my dad, it's been imposed upon me that I will live a life of servitude, you know,
deeply restrictive. Yeah.
Your characters have been compared to Cersei and Arya. Do you think it's a fair comparison? Because I feel like with your character, she was sort of portrayed as a pure villain from the narrative in the book, but maybe that we'll see a different side. But do you think those are fair comparisons?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like archetypes, for sure, but they do feel very different as well. And the beauty of Game of Thrones is that one minute you love these characters and the next you absolutely despise them. And I don't think that's that different for us.
No. And like, if anything, what I would hope is that House of the Dragon has really, really worked to make sure that, like, as in life, you don't have like goodies and baddies. Everyone's a mix, and kind of that's what makes life so threatening, I think.
Do you think the realm will ever accept me as their queen?
The lords of the realm bend the knee.
A woman would not inherit the Iron Throne.
Because that is the order of things.
So first of all, congratulations on the series. Ryan, I want to know if you felt a little bit like you sat on the Iron Throne yourself when George R.R. Martin named you king of this empire.
That's a really good metaphor. I think it felt very much like that. And then I was wondering if that meant that sitting there meant that everybody was then going to try to kill me.
That is interesting. I'm not going to even say anything to that, other than the fact that what was that? Because I know you had a lunch with George R.R. Martin, where you sat down, and it was the next day that your agent got that call saying, you know, George has a job for you. What did you say to him in that lunch? What happened behind the scenes that you had such a kinship with him?
It was, well, we had developed a relationship over a few years, just as me as a fan, I got to know him, and we became friendly, and it was just nice. I mean, he was hugely influential on me as a writer, and I was just a big fan of his. So I never expected anything out of the relationship at all, and I honestly thought I was just going out for a beer with him, and he had come in with an agenda. And that was to try to get me to write this pilot, which of course I leapt at the chance. And it really, I mean, it came together in such, things in this town did not fall out of the sky like that ever, especially good jobs. So I'm still stunned by how it all happened, but it felt like a bit of like Daenerys seeing the red comet in the sky. It was a prophecy of things to come.
Miguel, they had to drag you back kicking and screaming from what I heard. After 11 weeks of night shoots on Game of Thrones, you're an Emmy winner though for your work on that show. One thing that I think fans are really excited about is 17 dragons. I know we don't even see them all in season 1, but tell me what went into, how do you decide what dragons are going to have what personalities? How much fun is that? And they look, from what I've seen in episode 1, spectacular.
Thank you. The dragon process was really, I think we spent over a year designing 13 of the dragons, and it was really interesting. We learned a lot about dragons. We had to figure out things like why dragons die, for example. You know, what kills a dragon, because it seems to be that there was certain mythology that hadn't been kind of filled out by George, so it was quite fun to kind of look for the pieces and try and figure out how do we tell a story so that we retrofit our designs into this mythology about dragons. And then there was the reality of, like, you know, you can design a dragon all you want, and then you give it to these guys called the riggers, and the riggers basically take your dragon design, they break it down, build a skeleton, put the muscles on it, and then try and figure out why it doesn't fly. And so there was a lot of, you know, Caraxes, which is the bloodworm, which is Daemon's dragon, is a dragon that's super long. He's basically a deformed dragon. We call him the Elephant Man. And the funny thing about Caraxes is Caraxes really shouldn't fly because his body's too long for any aerodynamics to work properly. And so it was going back and saying, oh, we've got to put little kind of wings in his hind legs for this to actually work. That kind of stuff is pretty fun to do, but they're not real. You know that, right?
What are you talking about?
Sorry, I won't spoil it for you.
I think I might cry. How could you do this to me? Ryan, I can't even imagine. I know you're a prop collector. You even have a podcast about movie paraphernalia. So I'm wondering for you, working on the Iron Throne, some of the incredible daggers, and this is also the height of the Targaryen dynasty. Can you talk about from the scope of it to the big things to like those little details, kind of the undertaking of this project, and how do you make sure it fits in with what we're going to see 200 years later when we see familiar sets?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the great fun of doing something like this, where the entire world is bespoke or custom. You know, everything has to be built and constructed, and it's all done with a purpose and a design behind it. And you get all of these wonderful artisans from all corners who are their entire focus is creating this little piece of parchment or this dragon's egg, or how dragon's eggs need to be kept warm. How do we keep them warm? There should be a carrier. There should be some kind of kiln to carry it around in. And you get all of this creativity that comes to you from the outside, just based on people wanting to make the world feel like a real place that's lived in. And you get to see all of these, you know, Jim Clay, our production designer, said something really interesting to me when we were right at the outset. He said, the film business in general just employs all of these crafts that would otherwise be extinct. You know, clay sculptors and plasterers, and yes, you could do that as an art form on the side or have a little Etsy shop. But in terms of it being a reliable career and a trade to learn and study and grow in and have some kind of career path for you, it's really a lot of those handmade old things that we used to do before machines took over everything are employed by the film industry, and you get artists that pursue that. So just that's one of the joys for me, is because I can't do I have one life skill. And if anybody if AI takes over writing, I'm really screwed, because I can't do anything else. Miguel is very talented. He can draw, he's good at music. I can do one thing. So just for me, just getting to watch all of those people do their job is one of the greatest joys of my job.
The wrap and be, but real quick. If I'm going to be a prophet for a second, I think you guys have said you already know how this is going to end. Approximately how many seasons the Baratheons and the Starks are teased in you know, one of the teasers, and then we expect kills from Game of Thrones. Is that mapped out in your brains, or is a lot of it still in flux? Until I know the books have been written, but in terms of how it's all going to play out,
we have a plan.
It's only one season long. Sorry, I've got to tell you now. It's just like it's over after one season. We're going to have like 2 episodes next season, but they'll be extremely long, about 5 hours each, and that's going to be it.
No, we do have a plan. I mean, the beautiful thing is that the dynasty has, you know, 100 years left in it, even after the Dance of the Dragon. So there's plenty of places to go kind of before and after, but this story has a defined length to it simply because of how bloody it is. And we kind of have that in our head, but I think the hope is that there'll be an appetite for more Targaryen tales, because I think it's interesting to go backwards and forwards in time and tell tales from, you know, before the conquest, and then possibly a time when they were in power but with no dragons. I think there's a lot of interesting themes and landscapes to explore within that 300-year dynasty.
Well, who else would have a claim?
The firstborn child.
Rhaenyra. No queen has ever sat the Iron Throne.
The king has an heir, Daemon Targaryen.
I will not be made to choose between my brother and my daughter.
okay, first I have to ask you.
Yes.
You have a joust,
Yes.
and then you have a flirt.
Yes.
Who flirts after they joust?
Kristen Cole.
Yeah.
Christmas
Cole.
Christmas Cole.
Christmas COVID.
Christmas
came
COVID.
early.
Christmas came early, yeah.
Christmas came early.
Yeah, I don't know how he did that. Yeah, it was weird thinking about it. I don't know that I would have the energy to kind of go
I
and
think
flirt.
that it's a move because it's like,
a kind
I
of
just
thing.
beat your
It's like I just-
uncle. So.
Yeah, in this fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's the best.
And he's the best.
I mean, Damon, yeah.
And it was just so easy.
The fight?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Oh,
it was
yeah,
just like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's so easy. I have energy to now.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it wasn't easy for me at all.
No.
I was exhausted.
Were you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
It was you're throwing a ball with sticks on it on a chain. It's kind of made of plastic, but it still kind of.
It's got weight to it.
It's
so
got
it has
weight
to
to it, so that it
move.
does the thing, and also it rebounds off the shield. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but there are areas in which you don't want a ball with spikes to rebound and hit.
No.
So a lot of it was kind of like you're gonna really be good with your hips. So I did a lot of hip work.
You did a lot of hip action.
Yeah.
Riding dragons more difficult? Argue your
Oh
case.
no, actually so
easy.
much easier.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mate, you're just kind of like propped up on this like basically like saddle, and they just kind of move you around. That's it. I didn't have to do. I didn't have to train like Fab had to train and everything. No, actually quite simple.
I asked
But you
Matt.
did have to do High Valerian.
I did have to do High Valerian, which is
Okay, so that balances it out.
You asked Matt.
I asked Matt, like, if there was like a hidden camera on each of you riding a dragon, like, what would it look like? Would you look ridiculous? Because there's like a leaf blower.
I mean, it's quite easy for me to look ridiculous. So yeah, I look ridiculous.
What did Matt say?
What did Matt say?
He basically said, I said, did you get better over the season? He says, no, I was born to do it.
Oh, that is such an MS answer. So smug.
So smug.
So smug.
I love him.
I was born to do it, darling.
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 So I've been asking everybody today, like, there's really no good or evil in this show.
No.
Who, in your opinion, though, in your personal opinion, is the most evil and the most good in season 1?
I think Rhaenyra is the most good.
Aw.
And I think the most evil. Ooh. Maybe, yeah. Reese, yeah, Matt Smith.
Actually, yeah.
Not Matt Smith, not the character.
Sorry,
David.
no.
Straight up.
No, sorry. Damon Targaryen.
Daemon
Matt Smith
Targaryen.
is a lovely man. Damon Targaryen, yeah.
And David's gay.
David Horowitz. Oh my god, I take it back. David Horowitz is the
no
best
wrong.
character ever. David Horowitz I love him. I think about him all the time.
Oh my God.
We're on a group text about insomnia. Me and David. I've texted
Are
him
you
almost every
serious?
single day for the last 6 months. I swear to God.
Oh my God.
Does the cast have group texts?
We have some group texts.
Do
group
you?
chats.
Yeah, we
Tell me
got some
about
group
that.
chats.
Whoa,
We can't spread anything about. There are a few group chats. One started that was a disaster. It started at the beginning and it lasted maybe 3 days, and then there's another one that I'm on.
Yours is very popular.
That's not true.
It is true.
Yes, we have. I can't share.
It's
the
just us
context.
complaining.
It's us
It's
complaining.
literally just us
It's
complaining.
or someone going like, "Do you know what the Crafties have got on? Does anyone know? Does anyone know if there are burritos at Crafties?
What is this smoothie today?
Yeah. What is? Yeah. Why does my rice look like that?
Were there burritos back then?
Yeah.
Will a burrito make its way onto set?
Yeah,
That's
those
a
are
reference
the,
to
those are
you
the kind
know.
of questions. you can ask them.
Dracar, you had to see sort of the famous line
Yeah.
of Dracarys in
Dracarys.
episode 1.
Yeah.
Sort of how epic was that for
I mean, it was
you?
pretty epic. I remember reading it and being like, "That's the line." And yeah, I mean, she doesn't want to say it in the scene that she has to say it, which is kind of what is so heartbreaking about it. But no, I feel very like it was very surreal to say such an iconic line in such an iconic context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tease? I mean, I sort of know because of the books. I know a little bit about this relationship that sort of starts to unfold. Can you tease a little bit about?
We can
We can show
you. We can show you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kristen Cole.
Rhaenyra, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
That's it?
That's it.
That's what it is.
That's
it.
kind of
That's
perfect.
all we have.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah.
Rhaenyra's succession will be challenged. Knives will come out.
You are the king. Your first duty is to take a new wife.
So let's talk about this power couple on the show. Are you two the biggest power couple?
Yes.
Yes.
Why?
So
We're badass.
We're badass. We're the richest. And she's incredibly smart, incredibly politically astute. And when he's, got his sense around him, he listens to her.
I think the thing about us as well is that we're probably the two people in the court. Well, and I suppose Damon as well, because he's a sort of live wire and nobody quite.
Damon, yeah.
Is sort of dynamite, but nobody wants to mess with us.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I want to. Yeah, go
That's
ahead.
what I was going to say,
go
because we also control the Navy, because we are seafarers. And so the realm's Navy is basically our Navy. So, yeah. And we don't really care how people think about us.
Interesting.
Generally.
I find it interesting because you were, of course, I don't even want to say it, but the queen that never was. And then you're also the wealthiest. You've traveled the most, you're the most worldly. So how did the two of you reconcile not being at the top?
I don't know that they have.
They don't think they have reconciled.
No,
not
I don't think
being
he
at the
certainly
top.
hasn't.
And I don't think she has either. I think she's way better at covering it because she's such a good politician. She's superb at appearing that everything's okay.
Whereas he's
whereas
not
not
so
so
much.
much.
He's just like, no,
Yeah.
shut me up! You know. So I don't know that they.
I love that.
Yeah, me
I
too.
love that.
I actually quite like that about him, that he's so
He's so macho.
macho and so taking on the insult to his wife.
It's great.
As
I
his
feel
own thing.
very,
Yeah.
I feel very protected by you.
Yes, yeah, you should. Yeah. So I'm not sure that they have
But
reconciled.
yes, no reconciliation.
It's
So I think,
bubbling underneath.
Yeah, and I think an awful lot of the motivation for the season is him trying to find ways to get them
Yeah.
either to the top or better access to the top.
And I think, and the journey that they both go on is quite interesting. It's like they end up slightly in the opposite places
Yes.
that they
Yeah.
were to begin with in a way. don't
Yeah.
they?
I want to talk about this delicious line that you get to say that is in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. But men would sooner put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne. How delicious was it to say it? Such great dialogue. But it's also foreshadowing a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I was hooked into the show when I first met Ryan and Miguel said, you know, the whole sort of arc of this story, of this particular story, is based around this line, which is that men would sooner put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne. And it's like that is where we start, and that is where the journey, the whole of this story is about that fact and the unraveling of this ancient, patriarchal, really pretty corrupt, dysfunctional system, which weirdly is not that
Dissimilar
far from
to where we are
where
today.
we are now.
George said in one of the panels that he did that there is no character that's really good or evil as opposed to Game of Thrones. That this one, there's a lot of gray area with these characters. But in your personal opinion, who is the most evil and the most good in season 1?
Oh, wow.
God.
I think answering who's the most good might be a easier question than who's bad.
I think, you know, who's the most sort of good in inverted commas, but it would be Viserys. I would say Viserys.
Oh, of course, yeah. I was actually going to say Rhaenyra, but you're right, Viserys.
I would
Probably.
say, Rhaenyra's very high, so she's very low
Is she
down
right?
in
Right,
terms
right.
of
Okay,
moral.
so Viserys is, yeah,
But in terms of
most
who's
good.
like a good guy,
He's just an innocent who found himself in the wrong situation.
Yeah, it feels like
But
he's a sort
oh,
of,
do you know?
he's an innocent.
Hightower, Rhys, he's the most evil.
Most evil.
He's the one plotting.
Oh,
Otto
yeah.
Hightower.
He's a nasty piece of work.
Yeah, he's the one.
Yeah, get him.
Splintering shields and ringing swords. And I placed my heir upon the Iron Throne.
Your credits in the amount of projects that you've done between The Witcher, between Outlander, the voice of Loki, over 100 credits as an actor, I think around 135. So where does this show fit in the pantheon of your career?
Yeah, no, well, this is a fantastic show. Yeah, I mean, I was a huge fan of the original. I knew Ryan Condal from 2 previous shows that we'd worked on together. And we were both very keen to work together again. And we used to have lunch and actually talk about this. When it was not guaranteed at all, not greenlit, you know, there were a number of shows competing for the same spot. And we both had this wonderful kind of ambition to be able to see this come to fruition. And it's fabulous, especially for Ryan, but for me as well, to actually be a part of something that I've long wanted to be a part of.
Okay, so because you were sort of there at its inception, what about Ryan's vision and his ability to lead do you think made George R.R. Martin sort of name him the successor to the Game of Thrones kingdom? Because he's kind of like the appointed king by George R.R. Martin.
I know. I mean, I don't know if Ryan's told you this. I'd hate to be sort of speaking out of turn, but when we were doing a pilot in New Mexico, we were in Santa Fe, and of course George lives around there. And Ryan and I love this about Ryan, massive fan, and he basically pursued George and said, it'd be really great to sit down and have lunch. And they just became friends and became very, very sort of involved with each other and creatively. And here we have the result. And I just think that's the most wonderful story. That was 9 years ago that happened.
Wow.
And so from that moment to this wonderful full experience that we're now having is down to that. And I think that's a great story.
So your character had served King Jaehaerys and King Viserys. Did you sort of delve into the backstory, and who do you think is the better leader between the two of them?
Well, much as I love Viserys, I think his predecessor was probably. The problem is, it's very difficult. He has a very, very difficult role. Not Paddy, but Viserys.
And Paddy.
He has a very, well, Paddy has a difficult role too, but, in all sorts of ways. But Viserys, the way he even became king already placed him on a path of conflict, really. And that's what's so wonderful about the world that George created and the world that Ryan and Miguel are creating with the show, is that these have echoes in real history. These people that came to power somewhat reluctantly, somewhat by accident, tried to do their best, tried to do the right thing. And then there were these other forces at work that were trying to undermine them, or trying to, what they believed was do the right thing. And, so much of history is littered by people who felt they were doing the right thing and were really doing the wrong thing. And so, yeah, this fits really well into that. And we have the bonus of dragons, of course.
Well, I'm going to add one more contest into the equation. Who do you think better natural born leader, King Viserys or Jaime Fraser? From
the king of men. Natural born leader. Goodness me, that's look, Jaime Fraser doesn't have to deal with dragons. So, come on, give the guy a break. Viserys he's got a lot on his plate. Jaime's just got the American War of Independence. So it's nothing compared with what Viserys has to deal with. So I think Viserys is doing really well. And I would say that because I'm Lord Commander of the Kingsguard.
And as commander, it seems like this is a show of ambition as well. There are people that don't start out ambitious, and then they become ambitious, and maybe it corrupts them, it corrupts their heart. Where do you fall in the line of this? Where does your character, because yours seems sort of the most selfless in a way from the get-go, but I don't know where it goes because I haven't read the books.
I am, I'm a morally upright individual, yes, I am, which is an unusual step for me in my career. And he's just somebody that sees things very simply, and also occupies a place in what is almost like a pseudo-religious order, the Kingsguard, sort of reminiscent of the Knights Templar. He abandons all kind of worldly delights. There's no relationships for Harold. There's no money. There's nothing. There's just the Targaryens. No chair, probably no bed. He's just devoted to them. So he's a very straight guy, and he has his opinions about everybody, but he tries his very best to keep those opinions to himself.
Just before I let you go, at the start of season 1, who do you think is the rightful heir to the throne?
Oh, I think Rhaenyra. Yeah, definitely.
Rhaenyra.
Definitely. I do. I believe that she's the right choice. Yes.
And
I endorse this message.